The quantum resonance chamber hummed with an energy that made Dr. Elena Vasquez's arms tingle. Deep within Research Station Prometheus, humanity's most advanced quantum physics laboratory drifted silently through the void at the edge of the Kepler system. The station's sleek hull, barely 300 meters long, looked about as threatening as a floating coffee shop against the cosmic backdrop, exactly as humanity intended. Eleanor adjusted the final calibration on the quantum entanglement array, her fingers dancing across holographic controls that would have given most alien physicists a migraine just looking at them. The irony wasn't lost on her. While alien species had spent millennia perfecting bigger guns and shinier shields, humanity had taken a different path. One that would soon prove that sometimes the pen really is mightier than the sword. Or in this case, that quantum mechanics could be mightier than a dreadnought. "Dr. Vasquez," called Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen from the observation deck, his voice carrying that special tone reserved for "we're probably about to die." Long-range sensors are detecting multiple contacts approaching our position. Configuration suggests a hegemony battle fleet. Eleanor's coffee mug paused halfway to her lips. The hegemony, a coalition of 12 alien species who considered themselves the galaxy's self-appointed hall monitors, had been watching human expansion with the enthusiasm of a cat watching a mouse build a better mousetrap. "How many ships?" Eleanor asked, though she had the sinking feeling she already knew the answer would be too many. 47 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts. They'll be in weapons range within 6 hours. Eleanor nodded grimly and activated the station's emergency protocols. Red lights bathed the corridors as the skeleton crew of 37 scientists and military personnel prepared for what everyone assumed would be their final exam, with a failing grade meaning vaporization. But Elena knew something the approaching hegemony fleet didn't. Something that would turn their technological superiority into their greatest weakness. Sometimes, she mused, it pays to be the weird kid in the back of the class. If you're fascinated by stories of human ingenuity triumphing over overwhelming odds, hit that subscribe button and give us a like. We're just getting started with this tale of quantum warfare. The hegemony fleet emerged from hyperspace with the precision of a Swiss watch, if Swiss watches were the size of small cities and bristled with enough firepower to crack moons. Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion, watching the human research station appear on his tactical displays like a particularly unimpressive dot. "A single station," he announced to his bridge crew, his crystalline form shimmering with what could charitably be called satisfaction. 47 ships against 1 primitive research facility. The humans' arrogance in establishing unauthorized research operations in our territory ends today. Captain Vextall, his tactical officer, gestured toward the sensor readings with one of his 4 arms, which always made Elena wonder how they managed to coordinate bathroom breaks. "Admiral, the station appears to be conducting quantum research. Our intelligence suggests the humans have been experimenting with quantum entanglement for communication purposes." Kethvar's crystalline features flickered with amusement. "Quantum entanglement for communication? How adorably primitive. While they play with particle physics like children with building blocks, we have mastered the manipulation of space-time itself. Their understanding of quantum mechanics is centuries behind our own." The hegemony fleet arranged itself in a perfect sphere around Research Station Prometheus, their ships' hulls gleaming with energy shields that could deflect anything in humanity's conventional arsenal. Each vessel was a masterpiece of alien engineering. The Zephyrian ships with their flowing curves that seemed to bend light. The Gorlak dreadnoughts, massive and angular, like flying cathedrals of destruction. The Vorthan cruisers, crystalline and beautiful in the way that deadly things often are. Attention, human research facility. Admiral Kefvar's voice boomed across all frequencies with the authority of someone who had never been told no by anything smaller than a supernova. You are in violation, declaration, of Galactic Territorial Accords. You have 1 hour to evacuate your station and surrender all research materials. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your facility. On Prometheus Station, Elena watched the alien fleet through the observation deck's reinforced windows. Each ship was larger than her entire station, and their combined firepower could reduce her life's work to cosmic dust faster than you could say peer review. But as she gazed at the seemingly impossible odds, a smile played at the corners of her mouth. The kind of smile that had historically preceded very bad days for anyone who underestimated human creativity. "Commander Chen," she said quietly, "please transmit our response to the Hegemony fleet." Chen nodded and opened the communication channel. Elena's voice, calm and steady as a physics professor explaining why the homework was late, carried across space to the waiting alien armada. "Admiral Kefvar, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez, Director of Quantum Research at Prometheus Station. We appreciate your concern for galactic territorial integrity. Really, it's touching. However, I'm afraid we must decline your generous offer to evacuate. You see, we're in the middle of a rather important experiment, and we'd hate to leave before seeing the results. It would be like walking out of a movie just before the big plot twist." The bridge of the Dominion fell silent. Admiral Kefvar's crystalline form darkened with the kind of anger typically reserved for traffic jams and tax audits. "Dr. Vasquez, you seem to misunderstand your situation. You are outnumbered 47-1. Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields, and your single station cannot possibly pose a threat to a hegemony battle fleet." Elena's laughter echoed across the comm channel, a sound that sent an inexplicable chill through the alien crews, like hearing someone chuckle while reading the fine print of a contract you'd already signed. "Admiral, you're absolutely right about our conventional weapons. They are indeed primitive compared to your technology. But here's the thing about quantum mechanics. It's not about the size of your guns or the thickness of your armor. It's about understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself. And reality, as it turns out, has a wonderful sense of humor." "Enough of this nonsense," Kefta snarled. "All ships prepare to fire. We'll vaporize this station and be done with these delusional humans." "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Elena said, her voice carrying a note of warning that made even the most battle-hardened alien officers pause. "You see, your ships all use quantum-coherent navigation systems, don't they? Quantum entangled particles that maintain perfect synchronization across vast distances, allowing for precise hyperspace jumps and real-time fleet coordination." Admiral Kefvar's form flickered with uncertainty. The human was correct. Every ship in his fleet relied on quantum coherent systems for navigation, communication, and tactical coordination. It was standard technology throughout the galaxy, as common as coffee makers and just as essential. "Your point, human?" he demanded. "My point," Elena replied with the patience of someone explaining quantum physics to a particularly slow undergraduate, "is that you've just surrounded the most advanced quantum research facility in human space with 47 ships whose critical systems all operate on quantum entangled particles. And we've spent the last 5 years developing something we call the Quantum Trap Protocol." The words hung in space like a death sentence written in mathematics. What Elena couldn't explain without revealing humanity's greatest secret, was how the quantum trap protocol actually worked. It wasn't about disrupting quantum entanglement through conventional means. Instead, human scientists had discovered something that defied every established principle of galactic physics: the ability to retroactively alter quantum states through what they called temporal quantum revision. The process was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its implications. By creating a localized field of quantum uncertainty, the protocol could convince reality itself that certain quantum entangled particles had never been properly entangled in the first place. The effect propagated backward through time at the quantum level, causing critical systems to fail, not because they were attacked, but because they had never worked correctly to begin with. It was like convincing the universe that your enemy's homework had never been turned in. "You're bluffing," Admiral Kethvar declared, though his voice carried about as much conviction as a politician's campaign promise. "Even if such technology existed, you would never risk using it. The quantum feedback would destroy your own station." "Would it?" Elena asked. "Admiral, what do you think we've been researching out here for the past 5 years? We didn't build this station to study quantum mechanics. We built it to weaponize them. Every system on Prometheus Station is designed to operate in a state of quantum flux. We don't rely on quantum coherence because we've learned to embrace quantum chaos." The truth was even more remarkable than Eleanor's explanation suggested. Prometheus Station wasn't just resistant to quantum disruption, it was powered by it. Human engineers had developed what they called chaos-coherent systems that actually grew stronger in the presence of quantum uncertainty. While alien technology relied on perfect quantum order, human technology thrived on quantum disorder. It was the difference between a classical orchestra and jazz. One demanded perfection, the other made beautiful music from improvisation. What's your favorite sci-fi movie or game that features advanced technology being turned against itself? Drop it in the comments. We love hearing about what inspires your imagination. "Initiating quantum trap protocol," Elena announced, her fingers moving across the control interface with the practiced precision of a pianist playing Chopin. If Chopin had been written in 11 dimensions. "All hegemony vessels. You have approximately 30 seconds before your navigation systems begin experiencing what we like to call existential uncertainty." The quantum resonance chamber at the heart of Prometheus Station began to emit a frequency that existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. The sound, if it could be called a sound, was like reality itself, holding its breath before delivering a punchline. Across the hegemony fleet, sensitive instruments began registering readings that their designers had never imagined possible. It was like watching a perfectly tuned symphony orchestra suddenly realize they'd been playing different songs the entire time. "Admiral," Captain Vechtel reported, his voice rising with the kind of panic typically reserved for discovering you've been wearing mismatched socks to a formal dinner. "Quantum coherence levels are fluctuating across all systems. Navigation, communication, weapons targeting. Everything is becoming unstable." Admiral Kethvar watched in growing horror as his perfect formation began to dissolve like sugar in rain. Ships that had maintained precise positions for hours suddenly found themselves drifting, their navigation computers unable to determine their exact location. The quantum entangled particles that formed the backbone of their technology were still entangled, but they were entangled with the wrong partners, creating a cascade of systemic failures that would have been hilarious if it weren't so terrifying. "Impossible," he whispered, watching his tactical display dissolve into chaos. "This violates every known law of physics." "No, Admiral." Elena's voice came through the increasingly unstable communication system. This violates every law of physics that you know. Humans have discovered that the universe is far more flexible than most species realize. We just have to ask it nicely to bend the rules. The first ship to lose complete navigational control was a Gorlak destroyer. Its massive bulk, no longer able to maintain position, began drifting toward one of the Zephyrian cruisers, like a cosmic game of bumper cars. Both ships fired their maneuvering thrusters, but without quantum coherent navigation, they couldn't calculate the correct vectors. The near collision sent both vessels spinning away from the formation in a dance that would have been beautiful if it weren't so catastrophic. All ships, emergency protocols, Admiral HFY commanded. Switch to backup navigation systems. Sir, came the reply from multiple ships simultaneously, creating a chorus of desperation. Backup systems are also affected. The quantum disruption is propagating through all entangled particles in the fleet. Elena watched the chaos unfold with a mixture of satisfaction and genuine sympathy. She took no pleasure in the fear she could hear in the alien voices, but she felt a deep pride in what humanity had accomplished. While other species had focused on building bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had learned to rewrite the rules of engagement entirely. Admiral HFY, she said, her voice cutting through the comm static like a lighthouse beam through fog. I'm going to offer you the same choice you offered us. You have 1 hour to withdraw your fleet from this system. Unlike your ultimatum, however, ours comes with a demonstration of what happens if you refuse. You cannot maintain this effect indefinitely, HFY protested, though his crystalline form was now flickering with uncertainty like a broken hologram. The energy requirements alone are completely sustainable, Elena interrupted. Admiral, you're still thinking in terms of conventional physics. The quantum trap protocol doesn't consume energy, it redirects it. Every quantum fluctuation in your ship's systems actually feeds power back into our array. The more unstable your fleet becomes, the stronger our field grows. This was the true genius of the human approach. While alien civilizations had spent millennia trying to impose order on the quantum realm, humans had learned to harness its inherent chaos. The quantum trap protocol didn't fight against quantum uncertainty. It embraced it, turning the fundamental randomness of reality into a weapon. It was like turning the universe's own sense of humor against itself. Captain Vexfall's voice crackled over the comm. Admiral, 3 more ships have lost navigational control. The Retribution is on a collision course with the Vengeance, and neither can correct their trajectory. Admiral HFY stared at the tactical display, watching his once perfect formation dissolve into a chaotic dance of drifting warships. Each vessel was still individually powerful, but without the ability to coordinate their movements or target their weapons accurately, they were little more than very expensive floating sculptures. How? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. How did a species that achieved spaceflight less than 2 centuries ago develop technology that surpasses our own? Elena's answer carried across space with the weight of absolute truth. Because we had to, Admiral. Every other species in the galaxy had a head start of thousands of years. We couldn't compete with your technology, so we had to transcend it. While you perfected the tools you already had, we invented entirely new ways of thinking about the universe. Sometimes being the new kid in class means you get to ask the questions everyone else stopped asking. The Hegemony fleet continued its slow-motion disintegration. Ships that had maintained perfect formation for hours now drifted helplessly, their crews struggling with navigation systems that insisted they were simultaneously in 17 different locations. Weapons that had been precisely calibrated, now fired at random vectors. Their targeting computers unable to distinguish between reality and quantum possibility. "Dr. Vasquez," Admiral Kethvar said finally, his voice heavy with the kind of defeat that comes from realizing you've been playing checkers while your opponent was playing four-dimensional chess. "What are your terms?" Elena smiled, though the alien commander couldn't see it. "Simple, Admiral. Withdraw your fleet from this system and never return. In exchange, we'll gradually reduce the quantum field, allowing your ships to regain navigational control as you retreat." "And if we refuse?" "Then you'll spend eternity drifting through space, unable to navigate, unable to coordinate, unable to do anything but contemplate the fact that you were defeated not by superior firepower, but by superior understanding." Think of it as a very long, very expensive philosophy lesson. The silence that followed was broken only by the increasingly frantic reports from hegemony ships as their systems continued to fail. Finally, Admiral Kethvar's voice returned, stripped of its earlier arrogance and seasoned with hard-won wisdom. "All ships, prepare for withdrawal. We are departing the system." Elena nodded to Commander Chen, who began the careful process of reducing the quantum field. As the hegemony ships slowly regained navigational control, they limped away from Prometheus Station like wounded animals, their perfect formation replaced by a ragged retreat that would be remembered in military academies for generations. "Admiral," Elena called out as the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, "please give my regards to the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity appreciates their concern for our research, but we're quite capable of defending ourselves. And Admiral, next time you want to threaten a research station, you might want to ask what they're researching first." As the last hegemony ship vanished into hyperspace, Elena turned to her crew. The 37 scientists and military personnel who had faced down impossible odds looked at her with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. "Ma'am," Commander Chen asked, "what happens now?" "They'll be back, and next time, they'll be prepared for the quantum trap protocol." Elena smiled and gestured toward the quantum resonance chamber, where new readings were already appearing on the displays. "Then we'll be ready with something even better. Commander, what you witnessed today wasn't the culmination of our research. It was just the field test." She paused, looking out at the stars where the hegemony fleet had vanished. "The galaxy thinks it knows what humans are capable of. They see us as young, primitive, limited by our brief history and simple technology. But they're making the same mistake every dominant species makes. They're assuming that the future will look like the past." Elena turned back to her team, her eyes bright with the fire of discovery. "Gentlemen, ladies, we've just proven that human ingenuity can overcome any technological disadvantage. But more than that, we've shown that sometimes the best way to win a fight isn't to build a bigger gun. It's to convince the universe that your enemy's gun was never loaded in the first place." If this story of human ingenuity and quantum warfare inspired you, please subscribe to Apex Fleet HFY for more tales of humanity's rise among the stars. Hit that like button to support our channel. And remember, in a universe full of ancient civilizations and impossible odds, sometimes the youngest species has the most to teach about the true nature of power. The research station continued its silent orbit, its hull unmarked by battle, its crew intact and victorious. In the days that followed, word of the encounter would spread throughout the galaxy, carried by hegemony survivors who could barely comprehend what they had witnessed. Some species would dismiss the reports as impossible. Others would begin to view humanity with new respect and new fear. But all would remember the lesson of Prometheus Station, that in a universe where bigger and stronger had always meant better, humanity had proven that smarter and more creative could triumph over any odds. Dr. Elena Vasquez returned to her research, knowing that the quantum trap protocol was just the beginning. Humanity had taken its first step toward claiming its place among the stars, not through conquest or intimidation, but through the one thing that had always defined their species: the refusal to accept that something was impossible simply because it had never been done before. The galaxy would never be the same.